And also that's very sensible, because if you get very sensible because you get the phone going off.
Yeah.
Hi, darling.
Just wait for her to get out.
She's saying that she wants to get some job and to get her kids back.
I think it turned the camera.
We're recording.
Yeah, is there a zoom on it, John?
There is. Do you need one?
Yeah.
It's the big belt button round the outside there.
Okay, I'm just practicing here, by the way, when you look at this. Okay, that's perfect.
So, John, you're just back from the Ukraine. Why did you go?
Well, as a supporter of Elton John's Aids Foundation, I went with Elton and David to see the work that they're doing in the Ukraine.
So, John, here you are in Kiev.
So we've just arrived in Kiev to visit one of AF's supported charities.
If I had a place to live, even a tiny place, then I would have a chance to work.
So would you just tell us a little bit about what we're going to see?
Sure. So 7 years ago, Health Right began working in Ukraine, and 2 years ago, the Elton John Aids Foundation gave Health Right a grant to work with street and at-risk girls.
And the reason being the Ukraine is because of all the Western societies, the Ukraine has the highest AIDS problem.
When we say street girls, we mean those who both sleep on the street and those who spend most of their time on the street and might sleep in friends' apartments or family members' apartments.
It's gone through the 1% barrier and is approaching the 2% point. And it's at the 1.5 to 2% point that it's known that HIV exponentializes and really is a serious threat to society.
They are now settling the issues with their housing and all that stuff, and while they are doing that, I have my kids with grandmothers.
So I'm sort of girding my loins, feeling that this is going to be quite an emotional experience.
It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside.
And she helps for some help from Women Rehab Center.
Presumably these girls are at a very high risk category, being on the street and being forced to try and earn a living by various means. Living on the streets, living in squats, and there the infection of AIDS and HIV is much higher. It's 20% of these people.
It is in prison.
I must congratulate you on your beautiful pavilion.
Yes, we've found, of course, all street youth are at very high risk of hypothermia, HIV, drug addiction, alcohol addiction. Because
they're desperate to be living in the squats, of course, to begin with, and desperate people do desperate things. Drugs start infiltrating the environment.
So they don't take away her kids.
A lot of other issues, arrest by the police, criminal activity, violence, rape, but street girls, which are about 25% of the population of street youth in all, are especially high risk.
One of the girls that I interviewed, who was one of the street people, said that she estimated that 80% of people took drugs. And what sort of percentage of those tend to fall foul of HIV?
Street youth in total in Kiev is about 18-19%.
And the result is now that 20% of these, and the kids, bear in mind, almost kids, they're 14 to 20 or a little bit older. And what do you consider the biggest problem in helping these people?
You could say motivation to make some changes in their lives.
And 20% of them are HIV positive. And this squat that we're going to see, how many kids are living in there?
Anywhere between 10 and 30.
What sort of age?
Most between 16 and 22, I would say.
I think when you're exposed to a situation like this and you come from any civilized country, you're going to be shocked. But I don't want this to seem as a criticism of the Ukraine, because I'm absolutely certain that somebody taking me around London and showing me some aspects of London, I'd be equally horrified of the situation that some people live in what's otherwise an affluent and civilized society.
Most of these young people came from abusive families or neglectful families, and so they don't have really a model of an adult with a healthy life. And so they say, okay, I have my friends, I have my boyfriend, we're fine, I don't really want to know my HIV status because I don't really think that there's anything that can be done about HIV. I don't want to protect myself from pregnancy because if I'm pregnant, my boyfriend will stay with me, or I will have a baby which will love me. I'm comfortable here. I know what I'm getting myself into by living on the street. And
You can tell everybody this is your song.
Visit, is that going to be to a sort of a refuge or a squat, or what are we going to
a squat, sure. In
So
Kiev,
you're
there's-
targeting the squats because those are the people that are living off the streets, so it's very at risk.
Exactly.
When her husband got a sentence for prison, I had one of her sons with her mother, and the other son, she had to leave him with some religious service organization.
If I try to go back to school, I don't know what will happen. If I go to the hospital, I know that they're going to discriminate against me.
Having said that, then shouldn't charity be starting at home? Shouldn't we be looking to London rather than Ukraine?
I'm an absolute believer that charity starts at home, yes. But, you know, there is an element of trying to help the rest of the world as well. So I do a huge amount for the UK. I do as much as I can for the UK, but I'm also conscious that it's also an obligation of me to try and help people further afield.
The population are scared of them. They smell bad. They look different.
It may be quite simple, but now that it's done.
We used to see a lot more much younger street youth, but there's been a much bigger push in the last couple of years in Ukraine to sort of round up younger kids and put them in orphanages.
Hope you don't mind, hope you don't mind, gotta put me down on the road. How wonderful life is while you're in the world.
And on a sort of weekly basis, what's your most inspirational moments? What sort of things do you achieve that you're really inspired and delighted by?
I think it's always really exciting when someone we've been working with on the street for 6 months to a year finally decides to come into our service center.
But as always with these situations, there's always a lot to be inspired by and to have hope for.
I hope you don't mind, hope you don't mind, gotta put me down on the road. How wonderful life is while you're in the world.
And now there is a process, ongoing process of the court decides parental rights deprivation on her, but she still hopes to have her kids with her.